herself in this new chapter of her life. She got room 733 in Buchanan Hall. The building was old but charming, with its creaky floors and vintage decor. Claire felt a sense of history as she walked through the hallways, imagining the countless students faint scratches and imperfections that hinted at its age. Claire thought just an old mirror, but a chill ran down her spine. Night fell. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to the mirror, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. The dorm bustled with activity. Laughter and voices echoed through the hallways as students settled into their new homes. Claire felt a sense of camaraderie, knowing shadows and whispers. She slept soundly, unaware of the mysteries that awaited her in room 733. 3:33 a.m. A scratching sound ripped Claire from her sleep. Her heart pounded. The noise seemed to be coming from the wall behind the mirror. It was rhythmic, like claws dragging down the plaster. Claire sat up, listening intently. The sound stopped. Silence, heavy and suffocating, filled the room. Claire told herself it was just pipes or mice. Old buildings had noises. She tried to sleep, but fear kept her eyes wide open. The rest of the night was agonizingly silent. By morning, exhaustion had overtaken her fear. She convinced herself it had been a bad dream. The scratching returned the next night, more persistent than before. Again at 3:33 a.m., the exact same time as the previous night. It was as if the universe had set an alarm for something sinister. This time Claire was wide awake, her heart pounding in her chest. She had been dreading this moment, unable to shake the feeling of impending doom. It was definitely coming from the mirror, the same mirror that had been in her family for generations. It had always been a source of fascination and fear. She got out of bed, cautiously approaching it, her feet barely making a sound on the cold wooden floor. Each step felt like a journey into the unknown. Her reflection stared back, a stranger in the dim light. The eyes in the mirror seemed different, almost as if they belonged to someone else. The scratching grew louder, more insistent, as if something on the other side was desperate to get out. Claire's breath quickened, her fear mounting. Claire pressed her ear to the cool glass, hoping to understand what was happening. The coldness of the mirror sent a shiver down her spine. A whisper, faint but cold, brushed against her senses. Whisper, "Get out!" The words were barely audible, but their meaning was clear. Terror gripped Claire, her mind racing with possibilities. She stumbled back from the mirror, her heart racing. The whispering stopped abruptly, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. The room was silent again, but it felt alive, charged with something sinister. Claire didn't dare sleep, her mind replaying the chilling words over and over. She spent the rest of the night huddled on her bed, every creak of the floorboards sending shivers down her spine. The darkness seemed to close in around her, and she knew that whatever was in the mirror was not done with her yet. The next morning, Claire sought out Sarah, desperate for answers. Sarah reluctantly confirmed Claire's fears. Room 733 had a reputation. The previous occupant, Hannah, had left in the middle of the night, claiming the room was haunted. She had been plagued by the same scratching sounds, the same whispers at 3:33 a.m. Sarah confessed, her voice barely a whisper. Hannah said the mirror showed things that weren't there. She left a note on her door. "It's in the walls," it said. Then she was gone. Claire was horrified. She wanted to leave too, but something kept her there. A need to understand, to face whatever was haunting room 733. Claire spent the next few days researching the history of Buchanan Hall. She dug through dusty archives, poring over old blueprints and student records. She discovered that room 733 had once been part of a larger suite. In the early 1900s, a fire had ripped through the building. 2 students had died in that suite, their bodies never recovered. One name jumped out at Claire from the charred pages. Eleanor Vance, a student rumored to have dabbled in the occult. Eleanor had been obsessed with mirrors, believing they were portals to other realms. Claire felt a chill. Was Eleanor somehow connected to the haunting of room 733? Was she trapped there, her spirit unable to find peace? Night fell, casting a blanket of darkness over the quiet neighborhood. The moon hung low, its pale light filtering through the scattered clouds, creating an eerie glow that bathed the streets in a ghostly luminescence. The air grew heavy, thick with an unspoken tension, as if the very atmosphere was holding its breath. Anticipation hung over Claire like a shroud, wrapping her in a sense of foreboding that she couldn't shake off. She sat on her bed, facing the mirror, her heart pounding in her chest like a drum. The witching hour approached, the time when the veil between worlds was thinnest. 3:32 a.m. The numbers glowed ominously on her clock, each second dragging on like an eternity. The room was deathly quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your ears and makes your own breathing sound deafening. Every creak of the house, every rustle of the leaves outside seemed amplified, echoing through the stillness. Claire held her breath, her eyes fixed on the mirror. 3:33 a.m. The moment she had been dreading was here. She could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching her, the hairs on the back of her neck standing on end. The scratching started, more violent this time, the sound tearing through Claire's nerves like nails on a chalkboard. It was coming from the mirror, a relentless, grating noise that made her skin crawl. The whispers began, louder, clearer. "Join us!" They beckoned, their voices a haunting melody that sent shivers down her spine. It was as if the shadows themselves were speaking, calling out to her from the depths of the night. Then a figure began to form in the mirror, slowly taking shape in the foggy glass. It was like watching a ghost materialize, the mist coalescing into a human form. It was a young woman, her face pale and gaunt, her eyes burning with a cold fire. Eleanor. The name echoed in Claire's mind, a distant memory brought to life. Eleanor had been lost to the mirror years ago, a victim of its dark enchantment. Claire was paralyzed with fear, her body refusing to obey her desperate urge to flee. She could only watch, helpless, as the apparition of Eleanor grew more solid, more real. Eleanor's hand reached out from the mirror, her fingers long and skeletal, like the bony branches of a dead tree. They seemed to stretch impossibly far, bridging the gap between the worlds. "We're trapped," she whispered, her voice a rasping echo that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Help us!" The plea was filled with a sorrow that tugged at Claire's heart, a desperate cry for salvation. Claire wanted to scream, to run, but she couldn't move. It was as if her feet were rooted to the floor, her voice stolen by the terror that gripped her. The reflection of Eleanor was getting closer, her hand reaching for Claire's throat. The cold fingers brushed against her skin, sending a jolt of icy fear through her body. The mirror seemed to pulse with a dark energy, drawing Claire into its depths. Suddenly the fire alarm blared through the building. The reflection in the mirror vanished. Claire snapped out of her trance. Smoke was filling the hallway. She grabbed her essentials and fled. The fire was contained to the 3rd floor, thankfully, but room 733 was deemed uninhabitable. The mirror, however, remained. No one dared to remove it. Room 733 was sealed, its door bolted shut, a stark reminder of its dark past. Claire moved to a different door, but the experience left its mark. She couldn't shake the feeling that she'd been a hair's breadth away from being trapped in the mirror with Eleanor and the other lost souls. Warren State University still stands. Buchanan Hall is still a bustling dorm. But room 733 remains sealed, a silent testament to the horrors it holds. Students whisper stories about the haunted room, about the scratching sounds, the whispers at 3:33 a.m. and the girl trapped in the mirror. Was Eleanor truly evil, or just a desperate soul searching for a way out? The unanswered questions linger, adding to the chilling legacy of room 733. Some things, perhaps, are better left undisturbed, for behind the sealed door, in the cold, silent reflection of the antique mirror, something still stirs, waiting, watching.